Evening, kuya.
Good evening.
Interviewon ta ka, kuya, ha, para sa akong project sa Polsai.
Sure.
Sige. Ready na ka sa question, kuya?
Yeah.
Okay, number one question. Based on your past and current experiences, how can you define politics?
Well, for me, politics, it has something to do with policy. So basically, people or the government itself made policy to unite people. So we need to have a unified policy to have a very, what do you call this? Para meron tayong uniform understanding to what we should do for living. So that's how politics work. People and government work hand in hand to produce policies so that we could be able to live in harmony.
Okay, number three question. Have you ever met a good leader before? If yes, then who was it?
Well, to mention one, I've been looking forward to see people or to see a politician or a leader giving her best or his best to serve the people. And I think that as a legal researcher of a city councilor, I've been looking forward for city councilor John Dimitri Sator. He's so nice. He's so approachable, and there's one good thing, one characteristic that a politician or a good leader must have. She or he must be approachable, and I think that encountering him makes me realize that there's always be a good leader, despite of everything that is happening in our country.
Okay. Number five question. What are your expectations in politics that lead to a massive disappointment? How about an admiration?
Well, there's a lot of things to be disappointed in politics. And there's always also things that we need to be grateful of because of politics. One thing that I was disappointed with in terms of politics is that the corruption rate was really high, and it saddened me to experience that way because we have a set of good leaders. We have a lot of leaders to look forward, to look up forward, and it's kind of a bit disappointing that this good leaders has a really a dirty work in terms of doing corruption, and it is kind of a bit disappointing. They promises a lot. They stood tall before the faces of the people of the Philippines, before the faces of the local people, and they forgot what they promised with, and that is kind of a bit disappointing. But one thing that really reminds me to uplift or to give my what do you call this, to give my support in politics is that there's still goodness in those hands. They put their efforts, they put their career on hold just to serve our country, our locals, and that is the good thing in politics. Maybe there's a disadvantage and maybe there's advantage, but after all, what we need to do is one thing, that is the midpoint of this is to serve the people, and that is the essence of politics. That's it.
Number seven question. Finally, who is your presidential candidate for upcoming 2022 national election in the Philippines? Why?
Well, as what I've said in the previous question, I haven't chosen or I haven't choose my president for at this moment because my expectation was kind of bit too high for a president because I was casted my vote last election with Mariam Defensor, and I'm hoping that someone could surpass that expectation. So I am really having hard time choosing who I'm going to vote for the presidential position, but I am still looking into the details and their advocacies for the people or for the Philippines. So I still haven't chosen who I'm going to vote, but I'm going to tell you my qualifications. My qualifications is really into someone who is knowledgeable in law, because that is something that I'm looking forward. Who is knowledgeable in law because if she or he is knowledgeable in law, he could probably or she could probably make a difference in terms of the legislation, and that is something that is lacking in our presidents right now, or the past presidents. That is something lacking. They need to step up their game in terms of knowing what they need to do and put on hold, or what they're going to do for what they're going to put basically in law for the betterment of those, of those mere ground policies. So I think that that is something I am looking forward, a president who is knowledgeable in law. And if that someone is appearing before 2022, I'm finally sure that my vote will be him, or will be her, or his. That's it.
Number 2 question. According to your understanding, what are the characteristics of a good leader?
Well, a good leader must be brave. He or she is understanding to the situation of the society, and he or she will be able to uplift each one, and must be knowledgeable in law basically, or the first thing na kailangan niyang malaman or kailangan niyang mapossess is she or he needs to be knowledgeable in law, because you cannot be a good leader if you cannot follow the rules. So a good leader must be able to unite people, and make it in a one perspective. That's something that I learned through my past experiences, encountering with different kinds and different perspective of a leader. So I think that's all.
Okay, number 4 question. When was the first time you voted in a national election? Was the experience memorable to you or not, and why?
Well, I have a story to tell you. That I forgot the date actually. When was the first time I have casted my vote or practiced my suffrage? But that was memorable because that time I was also running for the position of Sangguniang Kabataan Councilor. It was really nice to have practiced your rights to suffrage, or your rights to vote, and I was pretty amazed how people unite that time, because that also experience was made by a lot of circumstances to be treasured. Like, I was casted my vote for the first time in the national election, because the my first election was actually a national election, and I gave my vote to the deserved one, but she faltered at the end and she didn't win. But I never regretted whom I voted my or whom I casted my vote. So it was a great experience, and if given a chance, I will vote again for her. But suddenly she was not here. So that's it.
Number 6 question. 2022 national election is fast approaching. What are your expectations?
Well, it's my second time around to vote in a national election, and so far today I haven't chosen my president, and I am expecting to have a clean election in 2022, more healthy election, and maybe I'd rather put someone in a position who's willing to serve our country with all his or her best, with all his or her capability to serve. And I am hoping that this 2022 election would be an eye-opener for us to choose a leader who is not a mushroom in our society that just disappeared when they needed the most. So I think that, and I'm expecting a lot from this election, but let's see what's going to happen in that day. But as of this moment, I am putting my heart on hold to whom I will cast my vote. But I just hoping that the one who will win the election would be someone who could really give his or her best for our country.